So this past week, I got the opportunity to go to Nikon Creator Camp. Well, pretty much they put a Nikon Z8 in our hands and told us, go make some cool stuff. And honestly, it was a fantastic experience, but it really allowed me to get into my filmmaker bag, which I honestly don't get a chance to do as often as I'd like. See, the truth is that most of the time my work as a professional videographer, filmmaker, whatever you want to call me, it requires me to pretty much shoot a lot of corporate work. And it's not quite as creatively fulfilling as I would love for it to be, which is one of the reasons why I'm here on YouTube. However, this trip was different. This trip was all about getting out and making some awesome shots. And that's exactly what I got a chance to do. Now, it was on day one where I actually had probably my favorite experience, and that is because the team over at Nikon took us to an old Western set where they had real reenactors as well as some high-end fashion models there, and pretty much just gave us full reign to be creative. There was a few grip equipment there along with some lighting, and we pretty much just got an opportunity to create some pretty cool stuff. Now, my goal there was to really just create some cinematic scenes. I wasn't really trying to tell too much of a story. I just wanted to kind of put some shots together and really see what the camera can do. And quickly, I was blown away by the image quality coming out of the Z8. Now, sure, I understand what everybody says about Nikon, but the truth is that I shot with the Z9 not too long ago and had a fantastic experience. So the Z8 pretty much carrying over most of the same qualities. I was pretty much sure that this camera was going to do a fantastic job. But whenever you put this camera with this scene, with the reenactors and the location, honestly, some of the shots that I were getting was blowing me away. I tried testing out different things at some slow motion ranges, as well as just playing around with lighting and color just to see what I could truly get out of the camera. After playing around with the camera for quite a bit, it was time to sort of break for lunch. And it was right before lunch that I had an idea. I knew I wanted to do a shootout. This is something that's pretty much standard in pretty much all Western films. And you can't really get into a Western film without having some type of a shootout. But there were a few major issues. For one, our reenactors had no weapons on them for obvious reasons. Also, they only had a few more minutes after lunch for us to be able to actually get these shots. So not only was I dealing with limited props, but I was also dealing with significant limited time. And this is where I pretty much had to shoot an entire short film in under 10 minutes. However, because I only had 10 minutes, I didn't try to overly complicate my short film. I wanted to make something that was fun, had a little bit of humor to it, but also was very true to the nature of a traditional Western. And so I quickly pulled out my phone, did some quick research to look at some different Westerns as inspiration. I also knew that there were some iconic shots that I absolutely wanted to get. But the most important thing was because I was having to shoot a short film in such a short period of time, I knew I needed to do a few things in order to help my film not feel like it was rushed. And this is where my first major tip, if you are ever shooting any type of film and you have a limited amount of time, but you want it to feel as big budget as possible, and that is to get tons of coverage. And there's actually a few little tips that I actually implemented in order to get a lot of coverage in a very short period of time. For starters, I made sure that I had markers on the ground for my actors. Now, I didn't want to have to take anything out in post, so we literally just drew lines on the ground with our foot in order to make sure that the actors knew exactly where they needed to land for their different walking sections. On top of that, I also went over the choreography with them in depth. And I even went as far as acting out the choreography myself. So that way my actors knew exactly what I was looking for because we had such a limited amount of time. The other thing that I did was I made sure that I got some camera movement so that way my shots didn't feel stagnant and boring. When you're doing a very short film and you're doing lots of quick cuts, adding in just a little bit of movement can go a super long way and will definitely help you to make your film feel more full and full of life. Now, one thing that helped me a lot when it came to actually shooting this was some of the time that I spent with the camera beforehand. You know, shooting with this camera, there are quite a few different settings that I wanted to make sure I had dialed in perfectly for the shots. For starters, I shot everything in ProRes RAW in 12-bit, which was going to give me way more color depth than just shooting in the the traditional 10-bit H.264. The last thing I'll say that I really tried to make sure I took my time on with this short film was with the sound design. Now, when I recorded this video, I didn't have time to capture sounds when they were happening. So it was very important for me to go and find sound later on in post. Now, I edited this entire thing in Final Cut Pro 10, which has a ton of built-in sound effects, as well as I went over just to YouTube and I would just type in certain sounds that I needed and just download the audio directly from YouTube. You can also find amazing audio sound bites on all of the different audio websites, which I'll have my favorite ones linked down below in the description if you're interested in checking those out. But the point for me was to really bring the video together with those Foley sounds in order to enhance the emotion and some of the sound effects, as well as build into the world. Because, like, for example, there were technically no horses there when we were filming. However, it's a Western and you would expect there to be horses. And so even though I couldn't film them, I made sure that you could hear them. And again, that just helped build the world a little bit bigger than it really was. But with only 10 minutes of time in order to actually execute this very, very short film, what was I able to make? Well, without further ado, check it out and tell me what you think down below in the comment section. As a bonus to this short film, not only did I make this film, but also there were some other creators out there as well, and they were filming, but kind of making their own variation of this very similar story. So I would love to know from you guys if you'd be interested in seeing a video where you can see how I shot it, which you just did, but also hear from the other creators that were there as well and see how they actually brought this film to light with their own vision. Let me know if you guys are interested in that down below in the comment section. But before we get out of here, I want to thank today's video sponsor for helping make this entire video possible. Today's video is sponsored by Datacolor's Spider Checker Video. Now, this guy is designed for helping to make sure that you get the proper exposure, color accuracy, as well as focus whenever you're filming. Now, the way that it does that is it actually has some built-in color chart and exposure chart for you to be able to utilize within your professional editors like DaVinci, Premiere, and Final Cut Pro. Basically, all you need to do is be able to have your camera rolling on this guy. Then you'll be able to check your camera's color accuracy by referencing your different exposure tools to the Datacolor Spider Checker Video. On top of that, you also get a white balance card, which is extremely helpful for properly setting your white balance, especially in unfamiliar lighting scenarios. Along with that, you also get a focus checker, which will help make nailing focus that much easier. And this is fantastic, especially when you're in situations where you're not sure if your lens is perfectly sharp or if it's just your monitor. With a grid like this, because of the different colors here and you get that contrast, it's way easier for you to be able to check your focus to make sure that your image is turning out perfectly. At the end of the day, the purpose is to get the best image possible out of camera. However, whenever it comes to editing it, this is going to make sure that the image that you capture actually shows up right in post. So thank you again to Datacolor for sponsoring this video. If you guys are interested in the Spider Checker video, definitely check out the links down below to pick one up for yourself. But thank you guys so much for checking out this video. If you have any additional questions about this short film or about the Z8 in general, because of course I'll have a video coming out on that really soon, leave those down below in the comment section, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace.